Green Bay is a small town, only 100,000 people. Those 100,000 people may be different in many ways, but there's one thing that brings them all together: the Green Bay Packers. In Titletown, the blue-collar city only knows hard work, tailgating, championships, but more importantly, they know family.
We have a saying in this town: faith, family, and the Green Bay Packers are all that you need. Sanjay and I grew up in Green Bay. You could say that we are Green Bay, or even better, the voices of Green Bay. We bring a local feel of Packer fandom to a worldwide audience.
Friendship, family, and football.
Ladies and gentlemen,
This is the Freezer Podcast. Yes, we are back. This is the Freezer Podcast, where we bring you a local feel of Packer fandom to a worldwide audience. I'm Sanjay, and alongside me, like always, is Matt, and no Fred today, but we are live here in our home studios, brought to you by Game On Wisconsin, brought to you by the Sweep Studios. Matt, it's good to see you, man. You haven't been here in a while. This is your show back in after the long, disappointing end to the season. How's it going? How was the vacation? How was that R&R that you definitely deserve?
It was amazing. You know, it was good to get to the beach for a good week and into the sun, you know, right back into the Wisconsin cold, although going to be 60 here on Wednesday. So summer's approaching, but I have to apologize for the blank canvas behind me. You know, it's the off season here in the Jensen household. So, you know, the highly respected Walmart flag has been stored away for the off season. So you're stuck with this maroon brown wall behind you.
If our ratings go down today, it's because
blame the wall.
Brown.
Blame the wall.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
blame the wall. So awesome. Good to have you back. Obviously good to have everybody back into the comments. We obviously, you know, said we were only going to come on to the show for, you know, some big moments like, you know, free agency. Obviously today is March Madness of free agency. Obviously the draft coming up next month. Big things that happen around the Packers that are, you know, newsworthy. We will obviously come back for. So obviously everybody in the chats, thank you so much for joining back with us. Man, it is cool to talk about Packers. I mean, first off, let's just start with this, Matt. You and I both, and Fred as well, we took that moment, obviously, after that NFC divisional round loss, and we kind of checked out, obviously, just like everybody should, honestly, on a moment like that. But we came back, and obviously, once we kind of heard the Rodgers thing, and, you know, once we kind of figured out, like, where the route was for the Packers here, you know, with financially, we're like, all right, let's saddle back. I guess, like, let's do this again. Let's get drunk. Yep. Let's get hyped up again. For disappointment, maybe. But your thoughts on that, Matt? Like the just when I thought I could get out, they pulled me back. They pulled me right back in. Like that moment. Well, go ahead.
Yeah, man. I mean, you know, I think everybody had their sour grapes after the loss, and it's sometimes hard to kind of pick up those pieces. I'm not one of those guys where plenty of people were able to, you know, days after that loss, just turn their attention to the draft and in free agency. I had to lick my wounds for a bit and kind of talk myself out of all the doom and gloom. But, you know, once the offseason started getting rolling, and, you know, we talked in the group and said, you know, if Rodgers comes back, we're all in. We'll get behind him, we'll get behind the team. You know, we'll put the same, you know, energy and passion into, you know, the 2022-23 season as we did last year. So getting that out of the way early, knowing he's coming back and knowing that, okay, we can just kind of focus on now player retention, you know, free agent acquisitions or the draft without having that all looming over our head, although they haven't really announced his deal yet. Right. Kind of made this an easy segue into getting into the off-season, you know, stuff. So I'm thankful they got that out of the way, and we can kind of plow forward here and focus on the stuff that really matters.
It's like one of those weird things. It's like, are you really just going to stop being a Packer fan because they lost that game and Rodgers stunk and the special team stunk? Because then you get to this moment and you see, like, obviously what happened today. You're like, yeah, I still don't like the Packers. I'm still angry. I'm still, like, can you still see yourself in that moment? I can't. Like, I mean, at this point, like, let's run it back. You know, like, so
let's go.
Big news, obviously, today. Obviously, it's a bit of a roller coaster, right? Because you're like, oh, that's great. Oh, that's not. Oh, that's great. Oh, that's not. So we'll get into everything. I know everybody wants to talk, everything that's happening with every single whoa.
You see what I see?
Whoa, did I just see what I think I see?
Big Mike
in the house. My gosh. All right. We've see now we start to talk about other fans around the league where, what kind of status or kind of state are they in? And for a Cowboys fan, I don't know what kind of state they're in at this point, but to join on a Packer podcast show,
he knows a few things about cap problems down there in Big D.
Hey, good to have you on, Mike. It's awesome to have anybody on the show watch us, because you know what, we accept everybody. So big news today, obviously, with the let's just start in the order of operations here. Preston Smith gets the big deal today. Big re-signing. And, it was the 5-year, I think it was, year $53.5 million, I think. I think that was what it was.
I wrote 4 years, 52.5. Doesn't matter. He won't see all 4 or 5 anyway.
Yeah, I was going to say, he probably won't. It's probably avoidable here at the end. But no, I think it was 5. I think it was 5. But either way, big signing for a guy that I think we all wrote off, right, Matt? I think we saw him last year, and he kind of gained the weight. It looked like it didn't seem like he had the effort. It really looked like he was lost a step after having the big Smith Bros coming out party when they got the first contract. And then we were like, God, get this guy out of here. Can we get the Rashawn Gary show? And then no Zadarius Smith after, what was that, week 3 or whatever, or week 2? I don't even remember which game he got hurt.
He played week 1. That was it. Yeah.
There you go. Week 1 against the Saints. And then he was out. And you started to see his role obviously jump up. And he showed, he showed hey, look, I want to have a contract, even if it's not with the Packers. I need to make my money. And he clearly did, because he obviously probably knew that he was probably a cut casualty, because Packer fans were, jonesing him. And so were, I'm sure coaches were probably like, hey, come on, man, you got to get going here. So your thoughts on Preston Smith? Big deal here, 4 and 5 years, like I said. So, what do you think?
I love it, man. I have to be honest, though. I thought this was the conversation we'd be having about Zadarius Smith, him being the two of the one of the Smith brothers that kind of lasted a lot longer, just because of the impact he had immediately. But obviously, his injured year last year didn't do him any help, and whatever behind the scenes stuff went down. But I'm happy for Preston Smith. I mean, talk about a redemption story. He came on the scene, 2019, had a great year, as you just noted, fell off the map a little bit on 2020, but had a great resurgent 2021, was a huge factor in the defense. Obviously, Joe Barry relied on him to do many different things, and he showed up. I mean, he was rough, rushing the passer, had, forced fumbles, sacks, all the stuff. So I love what they did there. It's Rashawn Gary's team now on that side of the ball in terms of the pass rushers. And, you got to keep that side, that it really is. I mean, Jacob Westendorf's son.
I just got 5 years, $75 million.
He did. Well, he did. He did. Well, I think he's the guy now in that position. I think Preston Smith.
I think it's a Batman Robin thing. I think we're still.
Who's Batman?
I think the show is still. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
Okay. Well, I mean, you say Preston's Batman. I would say Rashawn's Batman. But either way, you need a dynamic duo at that position to rush the.
Yeah, he's Bane.
They're both paid, so they're both going to be paid.
No, I said he's Bane. He's Bane.
Oh, Bane. You want to do your Bane impression for everybody? Maybe at a different time. Okay. But I mean, it's important to keep him here, because that is such a vital position on defense. It goes without saying. But if you lost him and Zadarius, and you were just kind of left with Rashawn there, now all of a sudden that kind of changes how you have to draft and maybe what you're looking at. So this gives them some flexibility at that position. It doesn't make it an immediate need, although it is one. But I'm happy for him, man. He deserves to get paid. And Jacob, you know what? You should come up to Green Bay, because I bought this at Lids. Not only do they have this, but they have the interlocked GB one. They have them both there. So, maybe just Venmo me some money and I'll buy them both for you.
There you go. See, there it is. And if I can get that hoodie for you, Jacob, I will. I mean, it's a little, they got to go back in time for that one, but
there you go.
I'll try to help you out. So, yeah, obviously great for Preston Smith. The only reason I said, the role reversal is just because I think this was the great coming out party for Rashawn, seeing obviously the the up and snaps, the up and pressure, obviously for him, and the expectations and the goals that he set for himself when he came into this league. I think he met a lot of them last year, and I think he saw Mike Smith, even though he's gone, saw what that potential start to grow, and now he can flourish. That's why I said, at least with Preston, he's seen it, he's done it now, and he's kind of like that, still that big brother, like, hey, look, I know you're going to get yours because you probably are the freakish athlete, but let me just still get, let me try to relieve some of that pressure off you because they still need to remember that I'm still a guy too, and I'm that dude. And how big of a signing is this Joe Barry, defensive coordinator, acquisition, I guess, because of this kind of situation for Preston to flourish, a guy that he had before in Washington, and the Commanders, stupid. And
I'll never get used to that one.
and it for him to get that, like, that obviously someone that knows him, a friend, a coach, a mentor, and someone that believes in him because he saw the talent when he was a rookie, and then to be able to produce for him, and then now get the obviously the contract deserved, as a reward. This just makes a guy want to go ball out more, and I'm so happy for him. Where were we like when we saw Z and Preston come in? Z has obviously the better year, and we're like, yeah, this is it. This is the guy. And tides have turned after a year ago when we were like, this guy's fat, he's lazy, he doesn't want to do anything.
I know.
And now he's still here. And I mean, that is the one thing you can never. And Roger says this a lot in his press conferences, but the willpower to prove people wrong and put a chip on your shoulder, and to fight through adversity. That's what this guy did, and I'm so happy that he's going long term. Go ahead.
Well, just as Iowa Joe pointed out, I was going to say too, like, he does have his career's a little up and down. He kind of has a monster year, and then he takes one off. So I do not want the
continuation now.
Yeah, you got to pick up where you left off, and I think to your point about Joe Barry, I think one of the great things about him is he seems to put certain guys in positions where they can just be successful. He's not trying to make guys do things that maybe necessarily aren't strength. I think about like Rasul Douglas, where he said several times during the year, well, people asked him why he had such a monster year. He's like, they just put me in spots where things that I do well, and my natural spots,
not in coverage.
Exactly. So I think they put Preston Smith in some more situations where he can leverage his true talents, and if they can put him back in that position this year, I don't see why he shouldn't have another great year. And just can't have the Nick Perry effect and take it off. Can't do that.
Right. Let's keep that trend, and like a good segue, because Joe Barry is the gluing point to all this. And I think what I'll just do is we'll just talk about the re-signings for right now. Devondre Campbell,
yes.
The Packers heard the cries of Packer Nation, Packer fandom and Packer Nation, to bring back a commodity that we do very desperately need, that we have not had, at least in quality, in over a decade. And the fact is, he is back, All-Pro, from the streets to the All-Pro selection. This is exactly what you're supposed to do as a team. You reward the guys that have given you so much for so little. That's kind of, that's going to be a nice segue to Devontae, because he did so much for so little. And the guy that just balled out, I'm sure Iowa Joe has it, over 100 some tackles on over the season. A lot of ball hockey. I mean, just the vision of him being sideline to sideline, being able to fill the gaps, find the ball carrier, and make a play like that we had not seen in so long. And to reward him with a 5-year, $50 million contract, still gets paid less than Blake Martinez got at New York, mind you, for all you fans that did not see the contract details. Matt, your thoughts on Devondre Campbell?
This was my number one priority, other than the whole Adams Rodgers thing. This guy was the one I wanted back out of everybody that was a free agent. Absolutely. And the reason was for the stuff you just pointed out. They've been trying to solve that riddle at middle linebacker for basically a decade, probably plus. I mean, there's some guys that came along that were okay, but nothing to the impact of Devondre Campbell, who instantly made this defense look completely different. Just his presence on the field alone, it looks intimidating. But he was, every time you're watching a guy running the ball or coming over the middle, he was there blowing them up. Somebody that we haven't seen produced like that, in quite a while. So I was going to be devastated. And I think I said on Twitter, it'd be, gross negligence if they just let him go. I'm like,
Right.
you can't finally get this guy and then let him walk, unless it was going to be an ungodly amount of money, which I think based on his production, I know it's 1 year, but I think it's much deserved. So the fact now they have him and Preston back, they're kind of, I guess, for lack of better terms, going to try to run it back with this defense. I'm excited about it because I thought the one thing that was going to be crucial, with the assumption of Rodgers and Adams coming back, was keeping that defense together under second year of Joe Barry, where usually you see him take another leap. So getting these guys in that same system, man, I think is going to be huge. But I cannot overstate how huge of a deal it is to bring Campbell back. That's a huge get for Russ Ball and Goody to pull that down.
Absolutely. And, I think it's, and Iowa Joe, I want you just real quick, Iowa Joe, if you have the time, I want to see one of Bobby
Put him on
Wagner's,
the payroll for the show at some point.
right.
Get show credits.
I wanted to see one of Bobby Wagner's best years. Okay. Because first off, this is a first team all pro. And I want to just say, for a guy to get 146 tackles, I mean, if you look at like a Kuechly year or like a Fred Warner, when he had one of his good years, obviously Bobby Wagner is the standard. And what we're paying this guy, if you look at the details, I think it's like a little over 10 a year. I mean, that in and of itself is a steal.
And what's his age?
I think he's 28, probably.
So I mean, you got him in the prime years now. You got him in his prime years locked up. Like, awesome.
So I think it's just crazy to think that you are just going to let this guy walk, because that's why I asked Iowa Joe to maybe find a Bobby Wagner year, because that's basically what you were letting out the door is a Bobby Wagner.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you don't just let that go, because everybody in the NFL, I don't even care if you're the Jaguars on the bottom or you're the Rams at the top, would have found a way to make the money work. I would tell you that right now. But the guy said he wanted to be here, just like Rasul Douglas, and we'll get to him in a minute. But just to show the gratitude and obviously the deserving portion of, like, in the money is what the Packers have usually done right. I mean, I know Packer fans, they're probably going to list off Micah Hyde, TJ Lang, all these guys that we did wrong and did dirty, but like, you can't pay everybody. But for the fact being on a position that we haven't seen them take priority on in middle linebacker, this was a big step for Brian Gutekunst, big step for Matt LaFleur and his tenure at Green Bay. And I have to think Joe Barry was at the door banging, saying,
I would have been
59 back. I cannot run my defense without him. And for a guy that was a middle linebackers coach and now he's the defensive coordinator, this is what he needs. This defense was the reason we were supposed to win that game.
Yeah.
All right. We were supposed to.
And they were, for the most part, if we could score a touchdown.
Right. You give Ja one game to kind of get his bearings back, and then, hey, NFC Championship game, maybe he balls out even more. Like, this was the game that the defense stepped up, and Joe Barry, I was going to say, like, I was kind of like up and down and, kind of like, what's going on here? I mean, but in the end, Joe Barry knew what he had with his players, and that kind of gets to our next conversation about Rasul Douglas as a big piece that I think. Yes, did I think Devondre was more important than Rasul Douglas? Yes, and I think you would probably agree with the same thing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Rasul Douglas had a place on this team, and I think Joe Barry had everything to do with that, putting him in the right position, giving him a opportunity to succeed, and we'll find out in the coming weeks if he's worth the money to the Green Bay Packers, because, hey, it's a good problem to have when you have to worry about your third corner and trying to figure out a way to sign him, because you already know you're good at the top with Stokes and Ja. But obviously, Matt, the other news that we had to talk about is, the departure. Sometimes when you have, superstar players, there's got to be some sort of, you got to trim the fat a little bit because you got to pay, these guys, and some other people can't take their contracts. And that ended up being Zadarius Smith and Billy Turner today on the releases. And obviously what their contributions were when they first got signed in 2018 were immense. I just think it was like one of those, like, coming out parties for Brian Gutekunst to say, look, I am not screwing around. Yeah, change the franchise. I'm going to be active in free agency. No more this and Ted Thompson just sitting around, doing nothing, in free agency, being silent, maybe getting one guy and it ends up being like a 1 year, 35-year-old guy. None of that stuff, right? This was a big splash to go get Amos and Turner and Za'Darius and Preston. And, it honestly worked. I mean, we had 3 successful seasons under their tenure, and obviously something have to come to an end. It was unfortunate Z had to have that injury. Billy Turner obviously had the knee injury late in the season, which kind of kept him out. But your thoughts on Za'Darius and Billy Turner?
I'm sad about Za'Darius, honestly. I obviously it was a necessary move with kind of how things shook out in the end and the way the cap is, but how it started, man. I mean, we pretty much credited him with the culture flip here. I mean, early on when he was in those, press conferences and talking to people, I mean, he was a complete breath of fresh air, and his play was even more impactful. I mean, you saw that immediately, just his intensity and how how much of a beast he was and racking up sacks, this and that. I mean, he came on quick. And he would have loved it to work out. I mean, he was such a large personality. He loved the Packers. If Packer fans loved him, it was a match made in heaven. So it is kind of sad that it worked out that way in the end. That said, I'm a little bit comforted with the move because we saw pretty much last year what the defense could be without him. Now, obviously, a healthy Za'Darius Smith last year only makes them better, but they did pretty damn good without him in the lineup. And you got some guys some additional experience, and it really afforded and let Rashawn Gary further develop and kind of let Preston Smith do some additional things. So I'm sad about it, but he's going to move on. And my prediction, he's going to go sign with someone in the NFC North to stick it to the Packers. That's just what I think is going to happen.
They expect one of us in the wreckage, brother. And he had to be in the wreckage. He was pretty good. All right. So Bane came up because someone had to come down. And You're right. You're exactly right. He gave, it's like that comment that we were talking about. Christian Bale walks so that Robert Pattinson could run. That's kind of the same thing. That's Za'Darius Smith doing that for Rashawn Gary. And this is a big moment for Rashawn Gary. And this is going to be a big year of expectations for Rashawn. No more of that, who's going to be the rotational guy. Obviously, maybe they might draft someone, and hey, maybe there might be someone we might pick up in free agency. Who knows? But they are probably, slating, 30-some plus. I don't even know how the snaps work for, Rashawn Gary. That's probably what Joe Barry's got him penciled in always as a starter, left outside linebacker, right, whatever side he wants. And so, yes, this is kind of a sad story just based on like how he changed the culture of that room. Matt LaFleur changed the culture when he got here, and it was a pleasant change for a lot of players. But then, like Aaron Rodgers always say, it's about the people, and the people in the building really do elevate and bring the spirits up of a locker room. And he was one of those guys for his time in his tenure. And I think. Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I say it'll be extra sad, man, if he ends up with like the Vikings or something, which I just feels like it's going to happen. It just feels like I don't know why, but it feels like
based on some of the things that we were hearing about, Za'Darius and his issues this season, I don't know if apparently there was a mutual agreement to leave. Apparently they were willing to keep him around, but kind of, flux with the numbers a little bit, but they both decided, hey, let's part ways. So does that mean the Bears, who just lost a pretty big pass rusher, or does that mean the Vikings just to kind of be on a better team to stick it to the Packers? Who knows?
Patton and Mike Smith are there, so
yeah, exactly. Mike Smith is there, and that's obviously a pretty good selling point for a guy that plays that position. But then let's go to Billy Turner. So Billy Turner, obviously another player that he had his ups and downs. I think as Fred famously said, one punch Billy. I had it, I was always happy that he was durable. He was available. He was always, willing to fill in what position needed. He would go at right guard. He'd go right tackle. He'd fill in at left tackle. Wherever he was needed, he was a Swiss Army knife. So I do love the ability that he gave the Green Bay Packers. Obviously, good character guy, good locker room guy, kept his, mouth shut, kept his chin up and worked and, just a grinder. Right. And was he great? No, not at all. But, was he good? Yes, he was serviceable. He was a starter, obviously. So it is obviously sad to see him go. I don't know what this whole situation with his injury settlement that he's about to get for $1 million. I don't know where all that issue is, but maybe someone can chat about that in the chats as far as how that works. But I'm sure he's going to be needed. Offensive linemen are always needed in the NFL, so he's going to get back on his feet.
Yeah.
I'm sure of it. So, so we'll, obviously they're going to be missed, but the show goes on.
It does. For me, I thought he outplayed expectations for me. I didn't really know much about him coming over for Denver, but I always thought he filled in pretty well. And for long stretches during the seasons, you really wouldn't hear his name or he wouldn't be brought up, which obviously is a good thing when it comes to an offensive lineman. He got obviously along well with the team, the org. Rodgers loved him. But as you said, he's going to get paid somewhere else. I mean, he played well enough here for someone to bring him in. You can never have enough quality, offensive linemen in the NFL. And the Packers are, a great example of that. I mean, I think one of the reasons they're able to let Billy Turner go is because they have guys like, Yosh Nijman behind him who played their butts off last year in some pretty adverse situations. So the Packers are in kind of a luxury spot when it comes to their offensive line, as they have so many different young options, guys that they can kind of to move around. So I really do wish the best for Billy Turner and Zadarius Smith, unless he signs with the Vikings as some kind of like revenge play against the Packers, which would be so scummy, and they'll say, oh, it's not that, but it would be.
No, man. When
it is, but
it's never. I don't think it's personal. I mean, sometimes it's personal. Brett Favre made it personal, but
yeah,
I don't know if it's always like that. I mean, I do feel like, hey, money speaks a lot of it too. Like if they're the one team that offers these guys the money that they're not seeing anywhere else, yeah, of course, go play there. But I don't know. We'll see. I mean, in the end, we're gonna kick their ass. So I mean, I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm not. Exactly, you can go to whatever team you want. It ain't gonna be better than ours. So but yeah, that's kind of the big news that happened today. Obviously,
that was just today.
Stuff, which is crazy. Usually the Packers don't see this kind of stuff day one. Usually it's like day 7, day 5 or 7, whatever it may be. But this was quite the.
And we're thinking about show topics yesterday. Yes, and then today basically just gave us an entire show worth of topics.
Thank you,
Wonderful.
NFL. Thank you, Green Bay, 1265 Lombardi, for making our show worthy, especially being the first show of the week on Game On Wisconsin. Make sure you guys check out Game On Wisconsin for the whole week, because there's plenty of shows that are going to be talking about this stuff. Maybe tomorrow, there's going to be even more breaking news at the next show. I don't know what. There's
all week long, really. It's going to be a conveyor belt of information. So making sure you check out the channel all week. Yeah.
So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we will hit up some other stuff that happened around the league that obviously I'm sure you guys have heard of, obviously through the grapevine or from Uncle Joe or wherever you get your news from. So when we come back, we'll hit that up, and we'll oh wait. I really don't even have a commercial to give you, so never mind. We're not going to we don't have
it's the off season.
It's the off season, so we're still trying to figure out. So no break. Sorry.
All right.
But hey, I will still come back as a big promo. Follow us on our Twitter handles. You see Sanjay X Murthy, you see Matt X Jensen there. Fred, also follow Fred, even though he's not here. Follow us also on our Instagram and Twitter pages through the Sweep Studios. You can always find a lot of content there, especially on Facebook. You're going to see all of our stuff that we do and that we post every week. And then as far as our YouTube channel is concerned, Sweep Studios is going to be on there as well. So you can follow us on YouTube. But like we said before, more importantly, follow Game On Wisconsin. There's so much happening here, whether it's on TV or it's through the ears on a podcast, or if it's on writing through the blog, whatever it might be. Follow us. It's huge. We're still getting bigger, and the names that we have on this lineup, from this roster of Game On, is crazy. So if you think of a Packer content creator or contribution person, that's probably part of Game On Wisconsin. Anyway, I'm blabbering on. So here we go. I hate off season because we don't have as many shows. So I'm like trying to figure out what do we all do here. I know. So, big news around the NFL, and that is Terrific Tom. Maybe not so terrific. He lost in the NFC Championship game, but Terrific Tom is back. Just when you thought everything was just gonna run through LA and maybe possibly Green Bay, Um, he had to come back. Now, the big talk about, through all the media heads and everything like that is, did they really believe he was ever going to stay retired? A lot of, little hints and things like that, we saw in the last 6 weeks or 8 weeks, however long he was quote unquote retired, gave us the mindset that he wasn't going to retire. And lo and behold, on a convenient day before March Madness, and obviously Selection Sunday, he decided to drop big news that he is coming back and returning to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Matt, TB12, we're still going to see it because we just need more and more of it. What do you think?
I was looking forward to a year with no Tom Brady, but
yes,
I mean,
I was. I feel like my entire existence is just Tom Brady.
It's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. On one hand, it's like I'm annoyed that he's coming back. I've been over him for so many years. On the other hand, it's like, well, can you blame him? If you want to play and you can, you might as well do it while you can. And that man's competitive fire maybe burns hotter and brighter than anybody, in the league. But I have beef with his comeback statement. I mean, he said he's coming back because he's got unfinished business. Buddy, you can't have unfinished business when you have 7 Super Bowl rings. There's no unfinished business. You haven't had unfinished business for 10 years. You're just trying to stack it now.
So, what he said? He said, I can't keep doing these kid stuff, and I don't want to hang out with my kids anymore. And he said,
went home.
Golf was harder than football. So
yeah.
he didn't want to be around anybody else. So
I will say this, though. At least he did it now before his team gets kind of into free agency, into the draft, and he doesn't pull a Favre in the middle of July. Hey, I'm coming back. Accommodate me, So,
right.
So in that sense, it was okay,
But he did pull a Favre, right? He did exactly what we had been seeing, and I loved like all the tweets yesterday about like everybody getting mad, like, oh, everybody gives crap to Rodgers and his drama, but here we go with Tom doing, pulling a Brett Favre and blah blah blah. It's like, I get it. I think everybody just wants the drama to end in Green Bay. Like, I don't think it's going to end until Rodgers is in camp. In all honesty. So, yeah.
But this is big for the NFC. I mean, this,
really, yeah, absolutely.
A week ago, it was like, okay, you kind of got into the whole, the Packers can run it back feasibly because, well, Tom Brady's gone. Russell Wilson's out of the NFC West. Tom Brady retired. I mean, we're going to be okay. Like, it's going to be Rodgers. Then what was the hierarchy? Like Matt Stafford, Kyler Murray. Clearly,
right.
1A. He's still 1A, but now you have Tom Brady, is back. And that obviously changes the landscape, and not just the NFC South, but the NFC in general. So
I can't believe you just absolutely slapped your friend in the face. And Mike, yes, maybe the Dallas Cowboys possibly could be. I mean, I don't think so, but for the sake of you being on our show today, we'll say the Cowboys might. Dak Prescott. There you go. I said his name. All right. I didn't say he was going to be everything's running through Dallas, because clearly everybody runs through Dallas, but like Deebo Samuel. But yeah. So you're right. The road to the NFC or through the NFC could maybe go through Tom or Matt Stafford, or obviously us. But we'll just have another.
Will they bring back Gronk now? They didn't resign him yet,
sure.
did they?
Man,
Chris Godwin.
Yeah, but here's the weird thing, and maybe Big Mike can talk about this too. But like, Chris Godwin got hurt. Like, he tore his ACL like on week 15 or 16 or whatever that was. So he ain't coming back. Like, anytime
He'll be on the
soon.
pup list to start. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. He's probably. I mean, if I don't know what, like maybe week 8, maybe, because they'll probably put him on the extended one, so that they can have the time and put him on that kind of IR. So I don't know. And the same thing with Michael Gallup. Like, he got hurt. Like,
he got paid
end of the season, and he got paid. Like, you're paying a guy that may never run the same way or jump the same way ever again.
Of faith.
And you just let Cooper walk out. You let you traded
a bag of chips. They swapped 6 and gave him a 5th. What was that?
And Cedric Wilson, you left him. He is awesome chemistry with Dak. So so we'll talk about that stuff right now. So big news around the league that could affect some of our own players. But like we just mentioned, Michael Gallup, 5 years, $57.5 million deal. Big contract. Wilson, like I said, Cedric Wilson, his teammate, went to the Miami Dolphins. and got a 3-year, $22.8 million deal, 12.75 guaranteed, and then a big a big contract for Christian Kirk. 4 years, $84 million for the Jaguars to go play wide receiver. Now a lot of that's fluxed with the salary. He's only making like I think 1.5 the first year, and then 15.5, 14.5, 15.5. He's got a $20 million signing bonus. So there's a lot of hidden language in that contract that really doesn't make it as big as everybody's making it out to be, but it's still big. But
Yeah.
one other notable one that I wanted to really throw out there was J.C. Jackson, 5-year deal for the cornerback to be the highest paid corner, I believe. I got to check that out. $82.5 million contract for him. 40 million in the first 2 years, fully guaranteed. So the reason I mentioned those guys' names, Matt, because why? Why don't you tell the friends of our awesome show?
Well, that's because we have two prolific players sitting in backstage looking at some of these contracts being signed and updating their agents to go back to the Packers to ask for more money. I mean, the longer we don't get these guys re-signed, it feels like it's going to be more expensive. The Christian Kirk one blows my mind. I mean, I refuse to believe that man's making $20 million a year. I do not understand how that's even possible. But I mean, that's just, I'm sure that came across, the ticker, and Brian Gutekunst's face immediately hit his desk. Just like, you gotta be kidding me. Because this is obviously going to impact the Davante Adams negotiations. And then likewise with JC going out to LA for the Chargers, same thing for Jair Alexander. We're in the middle of an extension talk with him, so he gets more expensive as this goes on. So for a team that has absolutely no money, man, they're going to have to start really shelling some stuff out. That's why this, kind of the next couple of days is going to be so interesting, because the Packers, I don't think they're going to be able to do a whole lot more until they get some of these contracts sorted out. And they have to obviously get under the cap here the next few days. And so, many of the cap experts believe that'll be done via some of these extensions. So, if we want to zone in on Davante Adams first, we can go ahead and do that. The debate right now raging on the internet is the guy's going to get $30 million. And a lot of people are cheerleading that, saying they hope he gets it. And it's like, yeah, obviously I want the guy to get paid. But as a Packer fan, I'm like, damn, can we bring it down a little bit? Can we try to make it a little bit more team friendly? I know he deserves what he deserves, but it's tough to think about paying a non QB that type of money. He's 29. What's the shelf life for a receiver of his magnitude? I mean, I know it's not the 90s anymore. Guys can play a little bit longer, but can you feasibly squeeze 3 to 4 more elite years out of him? Because you're going to pay him elite money. And when I think about these contracts, I think about the back half of it, getting stuck with some giant, cap number. And I know the cap's not real, this and that, but that's what it comes down to. And that's where the problem comes, because then all of a sudden 2 years, 3 years from now, when he's not 1A, people start going, well, is he worth $30 million a year? And now you're having the same conversation again. So one way or the other, he's going to get his money. I like to think that's going to be the Packers are going to shell it out, but I have no idea how this resolves itself, because the cap, I don't know where the number's going to go.
I mean, here's the thing about players. We don't know their life expectancy right now. There was obviously the old way, right? Running backs last till about 29, 30, quarterbacks only last till 35, but that's all been changed. The game has changed now. So I mean, I know Iowa Joe said 33. I mean, how do we know that, right? Like, I mean, Jerry Rice played till he's like, what, 37, 38? I forgot what he did. Granted, he wasn't Jerry Rice the end of the year, end of his career, but I mean, he's still having some pretty good years at Oakland. So, I mean, Davante isn't like, he doesn't use his speed. He doesn't use his size to do it. It's his legs. It's his brain. It's his feet. Like, that's how he shakes people. So this guy probably could play a long time. Now, these receiver contracts, obviously, yes. Do they bloat up, his contract potential? Yes, obviously. In my opinion, I feel like you give him what he wants. You run it back if this is for like a year. If Rodgers leaves, trade him. Just have someone else take on his contract. I mean, that's kind of, I feel like that's kind of a good strategy. If you can't win it all, going all in with this, what I'm Yeah. So like Aaron Rodgers, I think it's reported that possibly this could be just a 2-year contract, 2 years of commitment. whatever it may be, fine. Give Devontae the 4-year deal or 5-year deal, and then run it with him 2 years and just trade him. I mean, see if you can trade him, while his commodity's still high. I mean, maybe he's not. I don't know. We don't know what we're gonna see, but that would be my guess, because at this point, either Aaron Rodgers is not going to play if he's not there. I don't know, or he's got something up his sleeve that maybe we don't know at all. And maybe next week we're going to announce his huge number, and then Aaron's going to announce his number, and it all works out beautifully. I don't know.
Well, people keep saying that he's going to sign something that's super team friendly in terms of the cap, and to go off the whole Adams thing, you guys pointed out like age 33. So, okay, that'd be, if you signed a 4-year contract, he'll be 33, 34 by the end of it.
Right.
And it seems like most players right now are signing those 3 to 4 year deals. So I'm kind of with you, Sanjay. Just pay him the money, give him what he's worth. He's worth it. He's the best.
He earned it, man. I don't care what people say. He
played on a real market-friendly deal. To the Packers' credit, they did 2 great things early on. They signed David Bakhtiari right before he blew up, and they re-signed Devontae Adams right before they blew up, and Kenny Clark. So they got these guys on really, really nice deals of having to pay him top shelf money.
Yeah, that was just Russ Ball being amazing, man. Like, we always forget how amazing Russ Ball is. I know everybody says Brian Gutekunst, but it's Russ Ball doing the numbers, and it's like, it's not our fault that we had 2 superstar players. If it was just Devontae Adams with Jordan Love or some mediocre quarterback, you would have no problems giving him the money. But
this is the dream.
Really awesome problem that we have the reigning back-to-back MVP, and we have Devontae, and we have Bakhtiari, and we have Kenny Clark, and we have Ja, and we have Devondre, and we have all these good players.
Yeah.
That it eventually something has to give, where someone has to. You got to cut a Zedarius. You got to cut a Billy Turner. Maybe you have to cut someone like Adrian Amos. Maybe you have to cut Tunyon or whoever you might have to cut, because you got to make sure that you have the core guys, a tackle, a quarterback, a receiver, an edge. Those are like your core positions, right? Like that.
Well, and these are guys we drafted. This is how it's supposed to work. You're supposed to
exactly. These are Ted's guys.
Yeah, you draft guys that turn into superstars and you pay them. I mean, this is it's a privilege to have to negotiate with this type of player. It means you did your due diligence in the draft, you did your due diligence and did a good job coaching, and the player developed. So this is a nice thing. So Jair, Adams, Rodgers, don't go on the line. I mean, these guys all deserve their money. So I would assume that this gets done. I don't know if it gets done before, in the next couple of weeks. They have months now until I think it's sometime in July to figure out a long-term deal, or he has to play in the tag. He said he won't play in the tag, but I don't see him sitting out, particularly if Aaron Rodgers is back for maybe 1 or 2 more years. There's no way that Devontae Adams doesn't play football. It's kind of posturing and politics, if you ask me. But regardless, I hope they do the deal. He deserves it. Negotiate in good faith, and then that sends a message to the rest of the locker room, like, hey, you do your job, you show up and do it the right way, which Adams does. He's an upstanding player, great for the team, never makes a peep.
Good leader, man.
He gets in trouble. Great leader, good for the young guys. Give him the money, and like you said, if it goes south in a year or 2, you can trade him when he's probably still a top 10 receiver and get some compensation for him. So it's just get it done. Let's get it done.
Cut me all you want, man. If you can sign Devontae, I don't care. Whatever you need.
Just get it done.
So yeah, I mean, it's just definitely madness. It's a crazy. I saw someone post the Kirk Cousins thing. Man, it's a 1-year deal. We don't give a shit. He still sucks. Like, yeah, the Vikings re-signed him. They're idiots. They have nothing better, and he's probably going to beat us one time at home because that's what he does. So,
God,
but yeah, it is crazy to think that you see all this movement around the league, and we were talking about this off air, but that NFC West, man, it is going to be a fun division. I think they should make all the primetime games for all their division games. What I'm trying to say is, like, every division game that they have should be primetime, because it is going to be a show. I know the Raiders, it's a weird development over there. I don't know what's happening, with Josh McDaniels as the head coach.
But I forgot about that. Oh,
right.
God.
Yeah. It's definitely gone all the way at the bottom of news based on what's happened in that division. But Man, you got three pretty amazing quarterbacks, and Derek Carr is fine too. He's not bad. He's a pretty good
When
quarterback.
Derek Carr is the fourth best quarterback, I
Yes.
mean that's stacked.
Yes. And that AFC is pretty stacked where I think any game you see on CBS or whatever they're on, you're going to get probably a good matchup. I mean, heck, even with like Jaguars, I mean, that's still a fun thing to watch. See Trevor Lawrence grow. They're
Doug Peterson.
building him around him. They're going to be a team to kind of at least, obviously everybody's got to go through their pains and, grow as a franchise. I mean, the Lions always suck, but they're growing. They're slightly getting better. But the Texans, I don't know. I think that show is going to be horrible for a while.
They're rebuilding for a while, yeah.
But other than that, I mean, that AFC is pretty good. And you just, you did lose Carson Wentz out of the Colts, so I don't know what their situation at quarterback is going to be. Maybe it's a Jimmy G situation. Maybe they trade for him. I don't know what their possible plan is. But this is day one. This is only day one, and that's the crazy thing about of free agency is that all this kind of like big stuff. Like we haven't even like Jarvis Landry got cut today. All right. Lyle Collins I think got traded today. Otherwise he was about to be cut. Who else got cut? Corey Littleton got cut just before. But there's some pretty big names that you're just like, what? Allen Robinson has not signed yet. Some of these other MVS, we haven't even talked about MVS yet. Let's talk about that real quick. MVS, do you want him back? Do you not? If he's on a team-friendly deal, sure, I'll take him. But I think he's probably going to earn some money out there because people need receivers. People want that high-flying offense. You saw the Bengals with 3 really good receivers. Teams want to do that now. Let's surround our quarterback with weapons, and he's a weapon, man. He is definitely a weapon. Your thoughts on Marquez Valdes-Scantling?
If he goes, he goes. I'll be okay. I think he's a weapon because he has elite speed. I mean, elite speed, and then all to the point where Aaron Rodgers doesn't even know how to get him the ball. He either overthrows him or underthrows him. But I think you can replace that skill set. I've never been on this side where MVS is this really critical player and he's the key to their success. I mean, I get it. He can take the cap off the defense, but you can find many guys that can do that. And, probably for a bit cheaper if you believe the rumors that he's looking for 10 a year. Now, that said, if that number is far lower and he's looking for, I don't even know what the number would be, but not 10, yeah, I would entertain it. But when you're looking at trying to, pinch pennies here to fill your roster out, you can't be paying MVS $10 million a year. And you can find whatever quirky stat thing you want to do that shows him he's this good. But use your eyeballs, please. He's not a game breaker. He's not an elite receiver. Like, I think he's a good player and I think he has a role on the team, but I'm not going to break the bank for him. I'm just not going to do it.
Here's the thing. What does everybody have that we don't? They have a number 2 receiver. Some of these good teams, Cooper Kupp, and he got hurt, but they had OBJ, right?
Yeah.
Tampa Bay had Godwin and Mike Evans and Antonio Brown until he got, stupid. And then, you just look around. It's just like, is MVS really that guy? Are you like, dang, let's circle MVS. Let's make sure he doesn't get, yes. Can he beat you over the top? Sure. But he was always injured. And then he
had 4 years here. How many times did you go, holy shit, MVS? A couple times, a handful of times?
And it was always like Rodgers overthrew him or underthrew him. So it's like, that never worked. And maybe it's Rodgers' fault. Maybe it's, I don't know whose fault it is, but it just didn't work. So either find somebody else, like a Jarvis Landry, I don't know. Get a true guy that can actually tilt the game in your favor. Like, that's the guy that I think Rodgers, I hope, is, pound. I know he's pounding for Devontae first. But you got to get a guy, and I don't know where the money will come from, but like, you have to get a receiver. And the only reason I said maybe also move on from MVS was not that I'm saying he's the number 2, but I do want to see a little bit more EQ. And if Lazard is the guy too, like 3 and 4 right there. And then maybe you go after, I guess if it's Cobb because it's Aaron Rodgers, but if you can get a guy like a Cobb, if he's gone, like I just said, Jarvis Landry, I think that's a good 4-guy, rotation. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I've been saying it since we started the show. They have not had anybody in the same solar system as Devontae Adams. I understand he's 1A receiver. I'm not saying we need someone who is Devontae Adams. I'm saying
No.
we need somebody who has a similar skill set,
You
and they
need the
haven't
Robin.
had it.
You need the
They
Robin
basic-
Devontae.
Well, yeah, they have Devontae Adams, who's as good as it gets. He's an elite route
Right.
runner, and blah blah blah. Okay, but then they have a bunch of other guys who I'm not really sure what they are. And I like I said about MVS, he has a role in the team, but it's not to be the number 2 guy. It's like I think you need another possession guy, a guy that can win one-on-one. Again, we saw it in the playoffs. You got into a game, and granted, Rodgers had tunnel vision, but they took Adams and doubled him the whole game, and he wasn't comfortable enough to go anywhere else because of a plethora of reasons. I just think you need a true threat there. Now, I don't know that they're in a position to afford it, but that's what they're missing to me. I really want Alan Lazard back. I think he's a phenomenal player, and he's such a
great
Swiss
blocker.
Army knife. Yeah. Run game, you can pass the ball.
He's the guy
up the
that you
seam.
need as a number 3, and I think MVS could have flourished if there was another number 2. Like if you're sitting there telling me I would have had Devontae, Jarvis, or fill in that position, Allen Robinson, whatever you want to call it, and then MVS. Holy crap! Now we're like, whoa, what do? We got a guy that can go underneath, and then we got a guy that's going over the top. And then Devontae is just going to bake anybody that's solo on him. Like, that's, to me, is scary, right? But when you're just saying MBS is the next guy,
no
wonder they can double him. For the God's sake, we saw triple coverage on Devontae in a Baltimore game. Like, that's how bad it was. And that's how laughable it was that no one gave us respect. And so,
look at the Rams. Look at the Rams. Everybody bought that. The whole OBJ.
They're going to get Robert Woods back. So.
Could you imagine having someone like OBJ to pair up with a guy like Adams? I mean, come on, that's what you want. You know, it's not like they have a bunch of game breakers at tight end. You know, Tunyon was hurt. You know, you could even argue how effective he was. He caught a ton of touchdowns, but not necessarily, a top 5 guy. So I just think that they need to bolster the pass catching position.
Right.
Again, we're in a position where we may not be able to because of different needs and money, but I don't know. I don't know where they go with it. That's why it's almost like you have to get Adams back, because if you don't have him, what the hell are you going to do?
Yeah, I mean,
what do you do? You have nobody else.
Even though this is a good receiver class, it's not like it's going to be like, oh yeah, this guy's Justin Jefferson. Let's just point him as number 1. Well, the MVS to the Bears, I get the connection with Luke Getsy, but they have Darnell Mooney, man. Like that's their deep threat guy. And I guess if they don't retain Allen Robinson. Yeah, maybe that does give you the good. Luke Getsy wants to get some of his own guys in there. Sure, MVS maybe makes sense, but I think Darnell Mooney is like he's a really good player. He definitely can take the top off our defense, just like MVS, but actually more consistently, in my opinion. But
would you rather have like an Allen Robinson type to pair with Adams and let Cobb walk, and then kind of try to elevate Amari into that Cobb role slot? And then round it out with like
I don't know what we
Lazard
have.
EQ. I don't even know, dude.
He's got to have a pretty big offseason where he figures things out, because he's cheap, so it's like you got to keep him. But the question on Lazard, he is a restricted free agent, so he can place a tender on him, and I don't think anybody's going to pay a draft pick for Alan Lazard. So I just don't know what the price tag would be for him, but it's not terrible. So. And the same situation, at least for Robert Tunyon, as far as contract is concerned, his injury actually helped us. So I don't know
he'll be back. I'd imagine.
Yeah, I would think that he'd be back unless they go and maybe get like an Evan Ingram. I don't know. I don't know what the whole situation with that is. I think our main problem is just let's figure out the top, right? Or we still got to figure out what Rodgers' contract details are. Adams is priority number 1. Maybe Rasul Douglas is number 2, and then maybe Lazard / Tunyon kind of come at the end there. But it's a good luxury to have when you're starting to figure that out. But at the same time, you're looking at all these other teams reloading on, different positions, and you see like what other teams have and what we don't have. I think we have a lot of the good pieces on defense. I think we're not fine, because someone had mentioned about Akeem Hicks, Eddie Goldman. We've been praying for someone to be matched up, alongside these guys.
I would need a running mate.
I don't know if we can afford Akeem Hicks. I don't know if we can afford anybody at this point, but TJ Slayton was a nice little surprise as a rookie. Hopefully he can take a big step year 2. I think they would definitely draft someone. There's a lot of defensive linemen this year in the draft. I don't know if there'd be huge contributions during the season, but nonetheless, it's a pretty good draft.
It feels like they're going to end up signing like another vet or two on like a 1-year deal.
Exactly.
And so that's why I think you could look at the D-line
guy.
Yeah.
So now there's huge news. Now Michael Pierce not too happy about his restructuring from Minnesota. So could be some news about that coming around the corner. And that was a huge guy. I felt like a lot of the Packer draft gurus were like, hey, this is a guy that fits the RAS score of what Green Bay likes. I don't know if that's a situation that we can find ourselves in, but keep an eye out for that. But Matt, we got like 5 minutes here. So it is a lot of, like we said, day 1, still plenty of time left. I think we have a lot to still kind of shake out with what this roster, provides us, for the upcoming season. But, you can't help but notice some of these other teams and you're like, okay, where do we match up, on paper with them? And I get it. Paper doesn't matter, in the game, once you start, when the clock starts running. But, this team that was with more players last year didn't win it. So like, that's your benchmark, right? So like, you're always kind of comparing it. I get it. It's a new team every year, but still you're comparing where we were supposed to be the team, right? We were supposed to be the odds on favorite to win the Super Bowl. You didn't get it done. And now you're having all these issues with, who can you bring back? Who you got to cut, blah, 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 blah. And, and you're trying to figure that all out and still trying to be a factor or a threat in the NFC. A lot of questions still, don't you think?
Well, a lot to go, a lot of time to elapse yet. I mean, guys to resign, guys to think about maybe signing off the street. Obviously the draft is coming up, but what's happened so far, none of it's really a surprise. Maybe you could say the Campbell resigning was. We didn't maybe think that was going to happen, but it did. And so now the kind of attention turns to Rasul Douglas, obviously the resolution to Adams and Rodgers. But overall, I mean, we have to feel pretty good as a fan base because we're going to essentially return a team that's gone to 3 straight NFC championship games. Right. I mean, not 3 straight. I assumed last year 2 in a divisional loss. Yeah. Regardless though, with the way the NFC is shaping up, I still think Green Bay, if you just bring back your guys as is, you're still a top 5 team in the conference, I believe.
Oh, for sure.
And I still think
you're this conference.
And I still think you're the easily the class of the NFC North until Aaron Rodgers no longer wears green and gold. So, for me, what I'm looking to now is make sure you're shoring up some of those spots, and then maybe a guy or two on the D line or a vet receiver, something of the sort. But if we just bring back the same team next year, hey, fine. They went 13-4, and other than a slip up in the divisional round, should have probably made the Super Bowl. So you got to be positive as a Packer fan. It's very easy to get down at this time of the year because everybody else spends money, brings guys in. We'll probably hear our names, associated with a few guys, only for it to not happen and break our hearts. Sanjay and I are the kings of overreactions and getting depressed in the offseason. So take it from us. Do not buy into it too much. I think that the future is bright here, even if it's just a short term in Green Bay. So lots to go, lots to cover, lots to probably happen just this week.
Yeah. Before we go, everybody, thank you again. Obviously, we always appreciate everybody that has come out for the show and take an hour with us. Fred should be back next time around. On with us. So, barring any huge news, I mean, obviously, if Devontae does get a deal done, maybe we'll do like a Facebook Live or something. I don't know, but unless like more than one thing, because like if it's just his news, you're gonna get that news. But we'll see. We'll see how we're feeling. But if big things happen and we start getting all these guys back and like Rasul and Devontae, and we go get like Allen Robinson and all this other stuff, sure, we'll come back on. Otherwise, we will most likely return in April and get started with the draft. So just because we're not here on Mondays, don't think you're not going to get your news anywhere else. You can get it here on the Game On Wisconsin with all the other shows that come on air. So definitely keep an eye out for everything. Or if you're just smart, you just hit the little bell there on your YouTube channel, and you'll get a notification letting you know that there's a show coming on. So with that being said, that's Matt. I'm Sanjay. Until next time, go Pack, go, right?
Go Pack, go.